The Spirituality Now podcast is sponsored by Delaflor Teachings International, a spiritual and systemic coaching and consulting company with the mission to help individuals, businesses, and corporations create brilliant futures through sustainable transformation. Also sponsored by the Network for Human Empowerment, a philanthropic TV network that serves Spanish-speaking communities with free, conscious education aimed to empower individuals to become the best versions of themselves. And our podcast producer, Ascend Media, Authority Syndication, delivering premium video marketing, podcast production, and social syndication.
Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast, a podcast committed to supporting you in your journey to life mastery and personal enlightenment. Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast. I am your host, which is a funny thing to say. Anything that is being a host is very interesting, just to be the host of not only the podcast, but to the host of many more things here in humanity, of what makes me me and what makes you you. But anyways, I'm the host of the Spirituality Now podcast, really a portal just for us to explore what spirituality means for you, how you take this container of what spirituality is for you into your business, into your life, into all of the different manifestations of consciousness in humanity. Call it marriage, call it money, call it body, call it faith, call it love, whatever it is, however you choose to experience that. We hope to bring a container, a multidimensional container, where you with our incredible guests, and I'm telling you incredible, because there are people that have done deep inner work, that are consistent in their practice, that are devoted to spirit, devoted to the work of the soul, and that are willing to do the work of the undoing. And that's how I'm going to start this podcast, because I'm such a believer that most of the spiritual work is an undoing, because who we are is who we are, regardless of what we think, right? And so the undoing of who we are not, just to find more of what was always there and who we are, is the work. And it's so fun too. Sometimes it appears to be miserable, but it's so much fun. Anyway, so welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast. I'm not going to do a lot of intros and a lot of, things today. Just a reminder that this is a philanthropic podcast. We are not sponsored by anyone except by Source, like we all are, but we're not sponsored by anyone. We don't sell here. We really are a platform to contribute purposefully, focusedly on spiritual mastery. And the company Delaflor Teachings, which is my company, is the kind of the sponsor. Ascend Media, Authority Syndication Media helps us produce the podcast and edit it, and it's all philanthropic based. So just wanted to put that there. Anyways, today I want to tell you, I always love my guests, and I have a relationship with most of them in a way that I've known them before the podcast. And once we get to know each other in this portal called podcast, right? I call it Godcast, because really it's a place where we all meet. It looks like it's a podcast, but it's a place where we mirror each other, the God self. But I'm always so excited for our guests. But this one in particular, I'm going to tell you, I absolutely love this soul that is about to share with you more of her magic and her wisdom and her mystery and her mysticism. I loved her since I met her through social media, since I saw and felt the reflection of myself in her personality wise. I'm far much older age wise than her, but she reminds me a lot of me. She reminds me a lot of the commitment, of the devotion, of the focus I had at that age. And, I'll just put a number just for perspective, but it reminds me of the power of commitment in the spiritual path, in the spiritual work, in the path of God realization. Because I don't know for you, but for me, that's it. And it's not even it, because once you name it as an it moves and it ceases to be an it. But let me introduce you to her, and then I promise I'm going to hand the microphone to her. Her name is the beautiful, gorgeous. And when I tell you beautiful and gorgeous, I want you to understand that she's beautiful and gorgeous, mentally, physically, spiritually, everything. The beautiful Cory Katuna, who is cracking the code of what it means to live a deathbed life. Oh, I like this. This means radical honesty, hard conversations, sacrificing what looks good for what's true, and getting out of the stands and into the arena. She's and I have no clue what this is, so I'm going to ask her. IPEC trained professional coach. I think it's an organization, and I should know. Leader of workshops like Breakthrough Bootcamp, and most importantly, a teammate. Love that of Cory. Cory has worked alongside Bentino Massaro. If you don't know him, you should. And team since 2015, hosting retreats, coaching participants, creative directing, recording Mirror Talks episodes is the podcast of Bentino Massaro. I highly recommend it. Managing online programs like the No Limit Society and everything else in between. What she loves about this work is not just challenging people to trade in their unfulfilling lifestyles and mindsets for a life lived in devotion to generosity and self-knowledge. Is the teamwork, unification, and ongoing refinement that happens behind the scenes. And I think, this is the bio of Cory. But in experience, I just turned an awesome age of 50 years old in the body. It feels so great, because I feel more like it's my second teenage years. And I can tell you about Cory something, that thing that she said about teammate. She has a devotion and loyalty that is very rare to find. It's called bhakti, devotion. And it's a devotion that I only would have experienced before with the ecstatics, with the Hindu masters, and the principle of disciple-teacher relationship. So for me, what called my attention of you, love, is you have the awareness, the discipline, the mindset. And I'm really interested in you sharing with the world more about who Cory is. Right, because I'm so focused on that aspect of your soul. So, tell me, just to begin with, Cory, how does Cory begins in life? And I want you to tell me, like, hey, my childhood was like this and like that. How does Cory began in her embodiment of being Cory in this human experience?
Yeah, so I love this question. In particular, I love that you brought up the sort of early childhood thing, because my mom recently sent me this text describing how I was as a child. And I forgot, I really forgot, how you sort of develop this conditioning on top of sort of how you come in. And what she did was she sent me a text describing how I was when I came in. And the description was that, in a nutshell, I was convinced, I knew for sure that everybody was my friend. For sure, guaranteed. Teachers, friends, boys, girls, neighbors, adults, children, everybody was my friend. And I love that description, because as I got older and kind of developed my conditioning and my strategies for sort of navigating the world, I can always go back and find that sense of trust, that deep sense of trust. And so then as I track my sort of seeking journey from there, that's one thing I'm really grateful for, is that sort of inherently, true to my blueprint, I'm trusting. And I know that people are my friend. I know that people are inherently good. So even if I'm strategizing, or even if I get triggered, or, whatever goes on, and this has been so true with Bentino, who is my best friend, and my teacher, and a well-known spiritual teacher. You know him.
Oh, he's the best. I'm just
He
gonna
is.
throw it out there. I love him. I love him. Yes.
He really is. I mean, I actually, I've done so much. I've been so skeptical of him. And so over the years, for 7+ years, I've sort of thrown all of my doubt and skepticism and like all my best tactics at him, that I can say objectively that he is the best. He is actually enlightened living person on earth right now. I can say that confidently.
Oh, let me. I love that you. I love that you just said throwing my best tactics at him. I want to go back into the little girl, because that little girl, you know, it's you, right? And I can feel that of you. You know, look how I love you. You know, it's like you come over. You know, you're my adoptive daughter, and you are my sister. But I love how you said that you had conviction, and I feel that of you, Cory. And I love that you also named conditioning, but in a way, the trust that you have for humanity being inherently, you know, good, is kind, is we can feel it in our soul. You take conditioning with trust, right? The conditioning, once you apply the trust, you access the conviction of God.
Nice. Beautiful.
Look at that. You just shared it, you know, from conditioning to conviction. And what a powerful thing that you are modeling, you know, being a good student and being a great leader too. You are a very powerful leader. You know, I've watched when you offer your boot camps and everything. I'm watching. I'm a watcher, right? And I see how you present yourself with so much courage. So I want you to speak a little bit about that inner child. So we welcome her here. And I really believe that is, you know, who we are. But tell me about that trust, because you spoke about the triggers, you know, how even if you are triggered, how have you even send your best tactics? I think that's the best I've heard. Just the visual of it. Yeah, but imagine Cory sending her best tactics to Ventino Massara. I wish there was a video game of that.
I might be able to convey some of it. Yeah. So this was ever since I was, even in like school. I don't have specific memories of this, but I remember this sort of general approach, which was like, I paid close attention to my teachers, my history teachers, my math teachers. I paid close attention, and it was almost like I cared more about the circuitry between student and teacher, than I cared about the content. And I realized that the content came as a result of that circuitry, and like hearing where they were coming from, connecting to that, and like being a conduit for them to sort of generate more. And I noticed this, like I noticed that if I really cared and paid attention and listened and grew and was really a like receptive student, that even better teaching was generated in them. And I noticed the effect. Like I noticed that as a follower, as a good follower, I could create an even better leader. So I sort of built this sort of mutual respect with my teachers, even in school, and I sort of got to know myself as like a good learner, like a good follower, a good student. Like this is actually a role. It's not submissive. It's not subservient. It's not lesser than. It's part of it. It's actually what creates the leader. In a way, it's leading itself. So this was something. And then as I got into, actually, I remember when I graduated college, I graduated university, started working at this tech startup. I was doing graphic design and creative direction. And I remember just being like, oh my God, like without all this homework, without all this backlog of stuff I'm supposed to be thinking about and paying attention to and remembering and handling, just by living like a normal work life, I finally can hear myself think. Like I finally have time and bandwidth and space to like pursue what I'm interested in. And it hit me like a bag of bricks. It was like, oh my God, this whole time I've just been pursuing other people's content. And like, now what? Like now that I've got all these learning skills, what do I want to learn? Like, oh my God, I'm learning other people's stuff. And now what am I interested in? Like, what is the education that I'm seeking? And shortly after, I don't know, within a couple of years, I found Ventino, but I did some heavy seeking, heavy sort of, tracking the truth and looking. And I was into like organizational culture. That was sort of the first big thing for me, was like,